today we're talking about the Christmas table. That's why we've got this great table behind me and stuff like that. We're talking about the Christmas table. So you've got your notes, pull them out. We're going to follow along with me. Got your Bible, go to Samuel. We're going to be working in 2 Samuel chapter 9 is where we're going to be working. And for those online, make sure you go to our online site, go to our campus thing. You can pick up notes right there. And so you don't want to miss as we read along. A lot of scriptures are there. Great way to kind of share this story elsewhere later on and even just go over it and talk about it. Here's the big thought. I want you to get this. God wants to do something new in you. God wants to do something new in you, and He has created a seat at the King's table for you. Powerful thought. I want you to think about that as we go through this. Now, here's what's interesting. The table's kind of the heart. When you have a family, the table's the heart of a lot of things. A lot of good things happen at the table. And I know that for me, years ago, we have my family, we had 55 foster brothers. Well, we always had like 15 at one time. So when you add that up, there's like, 17, 18 at the table at all times. Parents and those that were natural, and it's a big table. And so we didn't, for the first couple of years, we didn't sit at the table. It was hard for us. We sat at 2 or 3 tables around the house. Until my senior year, I created a table. It was 15 foot long so that we could sit at benches, and the 2 end cap seats are these seats that are sitting here right now. That's why they're special to me, because I got them from a church that where I'd come to know the Lord and been saved and all that stuff. And then out of that, when we left later on, they were getting rid of the chairs. I took those and put them as a part of this table. So these chairs have been around for about 100 years. There's a lot of memories here. I know that when Terry and I were raising our family, the table was a very important time. We'd sit, we'd talk, we'd share, you look eye to eye, you'd have memories, you'd hear about what was happening in the day. You had that time today. Well, a lot of that is being replaced by TV and phones. We're actually texting to the person across the table, So the rest of the people can't hear the conversation of what's going on, okay? What used to take about 90 minutes at the table is down to about 17 minutes with television, because we've got to have the television to endure the 17 minutes. That or our iPhones, whatever's going on. And we're simply losing connection, that eye-to-eye connection that we would have. And one of the things is children do better when there's that contact. They do better at school. They don't have obesity. There's on and on the issues that they're really blessed. Having time at the table really helps a lot, all right? So table is the heart of family, all right? And Christmas is about family. That's what it's about. It's about God's family. It's about Him adopting you so you're part of His family. Though we sinned in Genesis 3 says, I will crush the head of the serpent. Why? To restore that relationship. I want you to imagine Adam and Eve would actually walk in the garden and talk with God. Hey, God, how's your day? Well, we had a few planets kind of go solar, and so I got to straighten things out. And there was a couple, they would actually carry on a conversation with God. There was that connection, that family that had been lost. And He says, I'm going to bring it back. So I'm going to share with you a Christmas story, because the Christmas story is woven from Genesis all the way through Scriptures, even to Revelations. So I want you to listen up here. All right. There's a cast of characters, so I need to introduce a few of them to you. And the first 3 are in this verse, 2 Samuel 9:1. One day, David, okay, that's going to be King David. That's the young David who defeats the Goliath. David, he's king right now, asked, is there anyone in Saul's, now that's the story I'm talking about, that's the king at the time, Saul's family, still alive, anyone to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake. So what we have is we have Saul, who is the king in this story I'm telling, We have Jonathan, Saul's son, who is to be king. He's the next heir. He's part of the dynasty is going. And David, who ends up being the king. Samuel has anointed him and made him the next king. So we have this young teenager who fights Goliath out of nowhere, and all of a sudden now he actually becomes part of the family because he gets part of the prize he got out of that was to marry the king Saul's one of his princess, and so now he's part of the family. He's a son-in-law, right? Saul didn't like David. He's getting too much notoriety. He wants his son to be next. He sees him as a threat, all right? But because of Saul's failure, Saul is prevented from being king very much longer. We find in 1 Samuel 15:28, the Lord has torn the kingdom from you, Saul, today, and given it to someone else, someone better than you, because your heart wasn't there. So we have Saul, who's the king that's lost everything, and David, who Samuel the prophet anoints him as king, all right, pours oil and says, you'll be the next king. But David's not even valued. I mean, because Samuel comes to the house of David and says, hey, let me see your sons, because out of your house, someone's to be king. All right? He sees the oldest, goes up, no, next one, no, next one, no. They're not here. I know God said that someone in your family, well, who is it? Well, that's everyone we have. Well, there's a nobody out in the field. I mean, we do have one nobody out there. I mean, his father didn't even recognize him enough to even be thought of in this batch. And so Samuel says, send for him, bring him. And he brings him, and he is anointed king. And David proves himself more reliable. He fights Goliath, and then he has victories, and he has battles. Saul begins to scheme and say, I'm going to kill David. I'm just tired of this. So he sends him into an impossible battle, a battle that's going to be lost. Heavy casualties. Wants David to lead the charge, wants David to be killed. Yet God gives him the victory, and they win this impossible battle. Now, David is being sung about, he's being praised, he's being lauded. I mean, it's gone the opposite of what Saul wanted to do. Now, I think some of you are wondering, Randy, where is the Christmas story? I see no shepherds. I hear no North Star. There's no wise men coming here. Where is the Christmas story? Well, it's here. And I want you to hear it as we talk about that, because the story is about the human condition. It's about where we get to. It's about where the world is. And we look around and we say, how could it be so dark? And God bringing light to shatter that condition. As we continue, Jonathan complicates things. Now, Jonathan's the third one in this act. He's to be king. Yet David's been anointed king. Jonathan and David become best friends. Oh, that's going to complicate the whole plot. I mean, the one that's supposed to be king that's going to be replaced by somebody else. The two of them become best friends. And Jonathan is on David's side. He sees God's hand in him. He recognizes what God is doing. He sees God's dream being fulfilled in David. Now, here's what's important for us as parents. So often, we want our kids to fulfill our dreams, make up for what we weren't able to do, get what we didn't get because we felt denied. Somehow we're trying to live through them. What's God's dream? And here's Jonathan, the son, going, I'm embracing God's dream. If it means me not being king, then I embrace that. We need to always find out what God's dream is, and we need to embrace God's dreams, not our dream. What we're trying to force, what we're trying to make. Jonathan sees David's hand, God's hand on David, and tells Saul, Dad, God's hand is on David. This ticks Saul off so much, he says, I'm going to kill you. Then you'll be king. Are you hearing that? Do you see a problem there? I'm going to kill you because you're arguing with me. Then you'll be king. Here's the key point. Sin makes us stupid. All right? He is just so wrapped up in himself and doing the wrong thing. He is just stupid beyond end. Jonathan then has this meeting with David because the king's been trying to kill David, so he's kind of in hiding a little bit. And they meet together. He goes, Dad's mad at me. I mean, he may try to kill me. I mean, I'm not sure who's going to live out of this thing, you know. And it's probably one of the last meetings. And I think Jonathan senses this. Because he asks a very unusual question. And for the next 10 years, they will not see each other. David's going to be running around the country, hiding in caves, hiding in different places. Even will leave his country, go into an enemy's country, pretend to be crazy. I mean, he is without friends. He is without family. He is chased. He is harassed. He is hunted. He has to be careful about saying anything or doing anything so he'd be found out because all these assassins are out looking for him. These armies out looking for him, trying to fence him in, trying to capture him, trying to destroy him. He lives in this chaos for 10 years. But guess what David does during that time period? In that hardship, in that place of brokenness, in that desert, he writes the book of Psalms. How many times do we go to Psalms and say, oh, that helped my heart. Oh, there's somebody that gets it. There's some real pain. There's some real betrayal. There's some real stuff going on. There's someone who has a heart for God in that tough, dark period in his life. He writes Psalms. Which brings us now to David's question. We picked the story up, verse 2. He summoned a man named Ziba, who had been one of Saul's servants. Are you Ziba, the king asked. Well, yes, I am, Ziba says. Very challenging script there. All right. Then the king said to him, is anyone still alive from Saul's family? If so, I want to show God's kindness to them. Ziba replied, yes, one of Jonathan's sons is still alive. He is crippled in both feet. Where is he? The king asked. In Lodamar. Ziba told him, it is in the home of Machirah. So David sent for him and brought him from Machirah's home. So, inside there, 2 Samuel 9, his name was Mephibosheth. All right? Jonathan's son and Saul's grandson. Our fourth character, Mephibosheth. All right? He was born after this last meeting. David didn't get the Facebook catch because he's running and hiding. He didn't get to see David say, this is my son, and that great pose, you know. He missed all of that. He's unaware that he has a son. When Mephibosheth came to David, he bowed to the ground deeply. And David said, greetings, O Phoebo. I'm going to be using Phoebo from now on because I have a hard time with this Mephibosheth thinking. Because if you didn't know, I used to stutter as a kid, and so this one doesn't work for Phoebo from now on. Phoebo. And Phoebo says, I am your servant. Don't be afraid, David said. I intend to show kindness to you because of my promise to your father, Jonathan. I will give you all the property that once belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will eat here with me at the king's table. Phoebo bowed respectfully and explained, who is your servant that you should show such kindness to a dead dog like me? I want you to circle dead dog. I want you to circle that. Then the king summoned Saul's servant Ziba and said, I've given the master's grandson everything that belongs to Saul and his family, You and your sons and your servants are to produce food for his household. Mephibosheth, or Phebo, your master's grandson, will eat here. He's going to eat here at my table. You're going to do all the work. He's going to stay right here. Ziba replied, yes, Lord, we will do as commanded, and we will take care of that. And then in verse 12, Phebo has a young son named Micah, and from then on, all the members of Ziba's household were Phebo's servants. And Phebo, who was crippled in both feet, lived in Jerusalem, catch that, ate regularly at the king's table. So I want you to see the Christmas story woven here across the page. There is this plot surprise. I want to get you prepared for it because it'll really help you to get more out of this story, to understand the power that's involved in this story, okay? Here's the surprise. You out there, you are Phebo. In this cast, in this story, that's who you are. That's your place. And for you to understand it, you've got to understand a little bit about your character. So let me share understanding about the Christmas story and your character, the role that you're playing, who you are. Life has not gone according to plan. That's the first thing I'm going to share, 5 things. Life's not going according to plan. What you hoped for, what you had planned, what you decided, not happening. It is messed up. You kind of thought that there would, be a dream and things would happen at a certain time. They haven't. You thought of a marriage. You thought of a relationship happening. It may have not happened, or it did, and it fell apart. You've lost a parent. The crowd has got you to make a bad decision. You're paying for it. You said, how did I ever get this? You're living with this regret. You've got to, whatever you thought didn't go. Boss has promised you something and has not come through. You've got addictions. Whatever you thought, it's not the plan. And it is messed up. When you live your life, it's not going to go as planned. Mike Tyson, I think, said it best. Well, it's good to have a plan, but what do you do when you're savagely punched? Bite his ear, that's right. I knew that had to be coming from Steve, yeah, right. Bite his ear, right. Just make sure it's Satan's ear you're biting, all right? Okay. So Phebo, Mephibosheth, he gets his name. That's not his plan. I really like David. David's a nice name. That's a great name. But I've got this other name, all right? His father dies at age 5. His grandfather dies in that same battle at age 5. He was going to be a king someday. There's a dynasty set up. His dad was going to take over, and then eventually he'd grow up, he would take over. Everything is gone. His home, his horse, his friends, gone. His wealth. He's even scrubbing off his name. I don't want to be known by this name because they find me, who I am, they will kill me. That's what happens when one king takes over. You kill the other family altogether. Life sure has not gone as planned. I mean, the pain and stuff you're dealing with, this COVID, who would ever think of COVID and all that? Life has not gone as planned. Second thing, people he trusted in his life have let him down. A boss not come through on something? Family member betray you? Something that you were hoping on, gone wrong? You've ever been lied about? The greatest wounds come from people that we love the most, and we feel betrayed in our heart. Kids, we bring up kids. Gosh, they'll break our hearts quicker than anything, won't they? We're betrayed. We're let down. People we've trusted in our life, that said, till death do us part. Anyone here can say, I've been betrayed? Huh? I know I can. I think everyone's been betrayed at one point or another. We trusted people, they let us down. 2 Samuel 4:4. Phoebe was 5 years old when the report came from Jezreel that Saul, his grandfather, and Jonathan, his father, had been killed in battle. When the child's nurse heard that news, she picked him up and fled. But as she hurried away, she dropped him, and he became crippled. Panic. If I don't get out of here, everybody dies. He dies, I die. I mean, they just wipe everybody out. I've got to get out of this place, out of this paddle. We got to get out of here. We're going to die. His nurse, whose only job is to protect and feed him, to care for him, falls. Now, I want you to think of this. If you grab a kid and you pick up a kid and you start running with that kid and you go to fall, what would you do if you're protecting him? You would try to pivot. So you fell with them on top. Obviously, that didn't happen. His back or his legs are crippled by the fall. She had to fall right on him. And deeply injure him. Now, he's been let down. But before I go too far, I don't want to give her a bad name. So, I don't want to talk about something bad in church, because I may get to heaven. She goes, no, you don't know the story because it wasn't written there. Here's what really happened. So I don't want to defame her, but I just want to let her get you know that this person was protector and ended up doing the injury, all right? I bring it up because we have all fallen. Every one of us. Even more so, every one of us have injured somebody else. We want to be forgiven. We want to say it's no big deal, but we've caused injury. We've all fallen. That's why Romans says, for everyone has sinned, and we all fall short of God's glorious standard. Third thing we find out in understanding our character, he was in danger with nowhere to run. I mean, he didn't have allies overseas, or he had no place to run. He's just a young child. And everyone's thinking, dude, you're dead. King David wants to see you. The only time a king asks about the former family is for one reason, to kill you, to execute you, to stop a possible coup to happen, to make sure your grandkids don't come up and take over against his grandkids. We have to kill your bloodline so there's no heirs to the throne. We have to end this possibility, this threat. It's Lord of the Rings, thrones. It's like we got to knock them out, right? This is why David says, don't be afraid. Now we hear echoes of the Christmas story. And the angels reassured him. I want you to think of these shepherds and the angels showing up. These are angels. Huge, massive, shining, bright. Angels. Beings we've never seen before. That's enough to blow your brains out, all right? Okay? But on top of it, they're warrior angels. They're dressed in armor, swords, ready to go to battle. This is his army. This wasn't the choir in robes. All right, give me an half here. Me. Come on, let's go. They weren't all tuning up. Okay, don't worry about it. We're just going to tune up. We're going to sing you a song. And instead of drawing their swords, they sing peace on earth. Don't be afraid. I brought favor. I brought blessing to you. I want you to hear that. The good king wants to show kindness. We are in danger. Turn and smile at somebody. and just say these words, you're going to die. At some point, we're going to die, all right? And we're all sinners. And with that, I end my Christmas message. Merry Christmas. Oh, no, you better finish this story up better than that, all right? The truth is, we're going to stand before God, and He's going to do a review of our life. So why should I listen to Jesus? Because Buddha, Allah, all the other prophets, all the other gods, never died and came back to life. Jesus died and came back to life. That's why I listen to Him. He has authority over death. And we need to remember, in this world of darkness, in this world of sexual abuse, of murder, of war, of disease, of cancer, in this world of darkness, in this world, Jesus comes and He is the light that shines in that darkness, that brings hope, that tells a message that says, I've come to rescue you. This is not your end. This is not your forever. There is another forever. I have come for you, and I've come to show you how to have power and life in this moment at my table. It's a rescue mission into the darkness. And that darkness can't overcome Him, can't overcome you. The fourth thing we need to understand is Christmas is the kindness of a king, of the one in authority. It's a new covenant. It's not a new contract. It's not a new promise, because those get broken. This is a God thing. It stays the same and never is removed. The old covenant's there. It's not done away with. I've just modified it and upgraded it and made it better. I've completed what you were waiting for in the Old Testament. Now it's done. Told you about in the Old Testament, but it's going to continue. It will not stop. You can bank on it when God promises it, when He's got His covenant on it. And He's bringing favor and blessing. And the fifth thing, He's given us a seat at the royal table. I want you to gather this and understand this. He says, here, this is your chair. The placard right here, it's got your name on it. You sit here. Jesus says, I was born in a stable. I was born in mess and filth. I was born in confusion and chaotic times. I was born when it was unfair. I was born in that situation to give you this seat. This place belongs to you. It's you belong here. You're part of the family. You're sitting here joking with one another. You belong here. You're not an outcast that's kind of set up and I don't know what I'm doing here. Hey, Jesus, let's take a selfie. Hey, yeah, it's good. This is great. Hey, remember when this happened? And you're sharing and you're telling stories. You belong at this table. You're a part of this table. Jesus has made sure that's happened, and He's inviting you to take your place. So many of us don't understand. Just take your place. Your name, the place, the setting, it's all set up. The chair's here. Take your place. I don't deserve it. No, you don't. I'm unworthy. That's right. But you got it. I gave it. Can't take it back. It's my decision. You belong at the table. And what's really exciting about this is that when you're at the table, your condition is covered by your position. People had to be dragged to the table because his legs didn't work and sat down. And when he sat there in his brokenness, he was like anyone else. His position covered his failings. It's a powerful thought. The table, the Christmas table, covers you. And here's what's really important. Your history, the things that you remember, the things you regret, the things that you agonize about, God has forgiven you of when you ask Him into your life. He has removed you from you as far as the east is from the west. He has gotten rid of them. So your history doesn't affect your destiny. What has come before doesn't affect what is coming. Where you think you're disqualified, He qualifies you. Where you think there's no hope, He goes, oh, there's all hope because I've given you hope. I want you to make today your last day in Lodamar. Because Lodamar, the place that he was called the place without pastures. It's a place that nobody knew. It was the forgotten place. Today needs to be our last day there. We need to sit at the table. So worship team comes. How do we get to the table? First of all, we're humble. There's nothing I could do to earn this. I'm not good enough. So often it's like, before I get to know Jesus, before I can go on my career, I need to get myself better. You can't do anything. You just need to come to the table and take your seat. Well, I've got to do something. That's pride. I can. That's pride. Here, this is about me, what I have done. Humble yourself. Accept. Receive. I should do something. You can't. Receive. And then you sit down. You sit down at the table. You take your place at the table. I sit in what Christ has done. I sit in His power. I sit in the cross. I sit in the blood that's shed. I sit. I've done nothing. I should fight. I should stand. No. You sit. You accept. You let it support you, carry you. You accept it. Ephesians 2. But God is so rich in mercy. So rich, He loved us so much that even when we were dead, I want you to circle that. When we were dead, no hope. We're so wrapped up in this sin, so wrapped up in our pride, so wrapped up in ourselves, so wrapped up in our habit, so wrapped up in hurt and regret, so wrapped up in unforgiveness, so wrapped up in the fact our hopes have been broken so many times. We're so wrapped up in it. When we are dead, He gave us life. Circle that. We are dead and He gives us life when He raised Christ from the dead. It is only by God's grace that you have been saved. For He has raised us from the dead along with Christ and seated us. Sit down. Seated us at the table of authority, of power, of being able to speak His words. I'm undeserving. I'm dead. No, I brought you back to life. I've seated you here. Dead people, God comes and gives life. So I ask one question. Where are you dead today? Where in your heart and your emotions are you dead? In your spirit, in your thoughts, do you feel dead? In your emotions, you just feel like, I don't feel anything more. I felt so much pain, so much. I've just gotten to a place I'm just numb. You feel dead. In your body, because of sickness, because of declarations of doctors and other people, you feel no hope. You feel death wrapping around. Where in your dreams, where in your family, where in your circumstances, where in your experience, something's happened to you, you say, I'm dead because of this. Jesus says, I come to bring you life. I've come to sit you at my table. See, Christmas is a really tough time for me, because that's where my daughter died, my mother died. But you know, I'm not undone by Christmas, because I know I get to sit at the table with them. That's coming up. There's going to be a Christmas. I sit at the table with them. We fellowship, because he's given them life. He's given me life. There is hope. He wants to put your name on his table. Luke 22:29. And just as your Father has granted me a kingdom, I now grant you the right to eat and drink at my table in my kingdom.